Hey everybody, this is Patrick Soukup with Soukup Real Estate Services in Fort Collins, Colorado. I'm coming at you to talk to you today about the cost of buying a house here in northern Colorado. The cheapest house in Fort Collins in 2020 that sold, now we're talking single family detached, no manufactured, mobile, or townhome or condo, sold for $207,000. It was listed for $200,000, sold for $207,000. And I'm telling you, it was a dump. And it needs a ton of work. Now, the second least expensive house in Fort Collins was sold for $225,000. That right there should tell you we are not the cheapest place to buy a house, but there are still some opportunities. In this video, I'm going to talk to you about what it costs and how much it takes to buy a house in Fort Collins, Colorado. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel, liking, commenting below. And as much as I making these YouTube videos about real estate in Fort Collins, Colorado, I enjoy more working with buyers, sellers, and investors that are working here in northern Colorado and Fort Collins. So if you haven't already, hey, send me a text, give me a call, email, whatever works for you. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about what I could do for you here in Fort Collins, Colorado. Without any further delay, let's discuss what it costs to buy a house here in Fort Collins, Colorado. It's the end of 2020, and the median home sales price is probably going to come in between $450,000 to $460,000. That's not to say that there's not opportunities for less than $400,000. About 600 properties sold in 2020 for under $400,000. But to buy a house with a conventional loan, you're going to need about 3 to 20% down. Obviously, if you want to put more than 20% down, you are welcome to. But if you put less than 20% down, you're going to be paying what's called private mortgage insurance, PMI, which I'm seeing anywhere between $150 to $200 in addition to your monthly mortgage expense. So the actual dollar figures it's going to take for you to buy a median home here in Fort Collins, Colorado is about minimum $13,500. Now, obviously, if you get less than that $400,000 price point, I think comfortably you could find a house between $325,000 and $375,000 in a good area, you know, in good condition. Might need a little bit of sweat equity, but let's just say for $350,000 you can get in at $10,500. Now, the biggest mistake I made when I bought my first house was not understanding what the hell closing costs are. So when you buy a house, you get to bring the down payment. Yeah, you're going to be responsible for putting that earnest money down right away within the first 3 to 5 days of going under contract. Then, yeah, you're going to need to bring that 3 to 20% down for the purchase price. But I'm going to tell you this story that when I bought my first house in 2013, we were putting pretty minimal down. It was a $322,000 house. We were going to put 5% down, so about $15,000. About 2 days prior to closing, I get the settlement statement, and I see due from buyer. Well, it was a whole lot more than 5% that I was assuming that I was going to be due, and it was essentially about an additional $5,000. And all I could think to myself was like, where the hell am I going to come up with $5,000? I probably was not the best buyer of a home at that time because I did not have a ton of extra money in the bank. I pretty much tapped everything out. And then when I got hit with the closing cost, I honestly didn't know what I was going to do. Ultimately, we were able to close on that house. Looking back, I wish I would have figured out how to buy a whole lot more because that $322,000 house is probably worth $475,000 right now. So that's 7 years later. But closing costs are something that are real, and they are going to come at you whether you like it or not. Closing costs are essentially comprised of prepaid expenses, interest, insurance, fixed fees, your closing costs, your appraisal, your lender fees, things of that nature. Those are all going to be due, and they're going to be about 2% of your loan value. So if you're putting 3% down comparatively to 20% down, you're going to have a little bit more closing costs because, well, you're doing a little bit more prepaids because your loan, your mortgage are going to be a little bit more expensive. So with a 3% down, $450,000 house, you're going to have about $8,000 worth of closing costs. So your total all-in is going to be about $20,000 to $21,000 to buy a home. Now, obviously, if you're putting 20% down at $450,000, you're probably going to be about $90,000 for your down payment plus an additional $7,000 for your closing costs, so $97,000. So anywhere between $20,000 to $21,000 all the way up to $97,000 is what it's going to cost you to buy a house here in Fort Collins, Colorado. But again, we discussed You could probably find something between $325 to $375, be a very safe house, have a little bit less, probably $15,000 to $20,000 all in. But I'm gonna tell you this, I strongly recommend, please, 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 have 3 to 6 months worth of mortgage expense saved up. Specifically this year, we have never realized how important it is to have savings and understand that, you know, shit happens. And when it does, you need to have a little bit extra in the bank to get you through 3 to 6 months. Also, water heater goes out, furnace goes out, whatever that might be, you are now responsible for that home. So yeah, dip into those 3 to 6 months of mortgage expense if you need to pay for that water heater or furnace, but it's best to have some money saved up because now you're responsible for those homes. Other than that, really, those are the main costs of what it's going to take you to buy a house. You will have some inspection expenses while you're under contract. So whether you have that water heater that goes out or the furnace that goes out, you are going to have some savings saved up so that you can be, you know, coming out of your checkbook, not on your credit card, which is, you know, pretty important if you're going to be buying a house. Alrighty, so we've talked about it. You could probably buy a house between $325, $375 just fine, but the median price is going to be about $450 to $460. You're going to need about 3 to 20% down. Anything less than 20% is going to require you to pay private mortgage insurance. And then, really important, you're going to have closing costs when you get to the closing table after being under contract for 30 to 45 days, which is an additional expense not associated with your down payment. We've talked numbers. Hopefully you understand what it's going to cost you to buy a house in Northern Colorado, specifically Fort Collins, Colorado. Alrighty guys, appreciate you watching. And again, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing, commenting below, liking the page, and if you're looking at buying or selling or investing here in Fort Collins, Colorado, send me a text, email, give me a call. I'd love to work with you. Appreciate your time. Until next time, guys, take care.